I think one of the biggest lies we tell ourselves is that we're behind. Behind in our writing, behind in our careers, behind in life. But compared to who? Stories don't all move at the same pace, and people don't either. Hello, fiction babes and storytellers. Welcome to another episode of Habits of a Writer, the podcast where we talk about the good habits that lead to a finished manuscript. I'm your host, Portia Levette, novelist, author of two self published books, and soon to have a third one. I think the reason we believe this is because we're always looking sideways. We're looking at who published first, who got promoted, who built the audience, who seems further ahead. And after a while, we stop looking at our own page. Let me tell you a story. A company I previously worked for was attempting to do a team building event between the three locations. These were set up as conferences over the phone. When I had the opportunity to introduce myself, I let everyone know that I had recently published my first novel. The guy leading the event, he asked what it was about. So I gave my spiel, and he responded with, "Oh, that's the movie Waiting to Exhale." My heart stiffened. "No, it's not," I said, and spoke more about the characters. "Yeah, sounds like Waiting to Exhale to me," he said very rudely. Someone else spoke up and said she would love to read my book and asked if I would put the link in the chat for her. I felt like he wanted to be right, but I also felt like I needed to defend my writing. So for the remainder of the time I was there, I stayed tight lipped, fumed for a minute, and then eventually just hung up, no longer wanting to participate. Looking back, I realized something. He didn't create my doubt. He found doubt that was already there. Because before I ever wrote the first word, I had already compared myself. I had already wondered if I was good enough to be discovered, like the women that influenced me as a writer. And I think we do this in life too. We look at someone else's timeline and ask, what's wrong with me? But stories don't work that way. No one would pick up a novel and say, the protagonist should have already had everything figured out by chapter 3. The setbacks matter, the delays matter, the middle matters. You wouldn't rush your characters through growth, so why are you rushing yourself? Every story requires a beginning, a middle, and end. Every plot requires beats that take us on an emotional roller coaster. We need a reason to want to cheer for the protagonist. Life isn't linear. It requires some ups, some downs, and it's never going to look like anyone else's. It's only capable of looking like your story. And nobody can do it the way you do it. If I made all the same decisions you did, my outcome would still be different. Being in a different chapter means new things are carrying the story forward. It doesn't put you behind. You are right where you're supposed to be. So this week's habit, stop looking sideways. Grab a journal, and I encourage you to answer the following questions. What chapter am I actually in? What am I learning here? What am I building that I couldn't have built 5 years ago? Our stories, they start from within. So let's start there. Hey, if you're new here and looking for tips on writing, creating a sustainable writing routine, and want to talk all things story, then I'm so glad we found each other. I'll be here every Tuesday with a new episode, so be sure to follow or subscribe so you don't miss out. And if you found encouragement in this episode, then please share it with another writer friend who could use some encouragement. Until next time, happy writing, my friends. Again, my name is Portia Levette, and this is Habits of a Writer podcast.